the fact that all of this is coming out right now is great press for Megalopolis.
Bing bong.
I usually do not do movie news videos very often on this channel. I did just do 2 videos about Zack Snyder, but that's totally different. But I need to talk about this Megalopolis situation. Now, if you have not heard of this movie, it was recently screened at the Cannes Film Festival in France. It is a Francis Ford Coppola wrote it, directed it, and it is his first movie, I think, in almost 10 or 12 years, and he's been working on this project for I think around 40 years. There's a lot happening with this movie right now. There are a few things specifically that I think are both fascinating, potentially could become a bit of a problem, and it's just a really interesting story all around. The first thing here, and potentially the biggest story surrounding this movie, is that it does not currently have a distributor. Just to recap, in order for your movie to actually be in a movie theater, a company, a distributor, has to purchase it and organize all of the distribution for the movie. Companies like Paramount, Warner Brothers, Universal, those are distributors, and they usually pick up films and place them in theaters. And right now, Coppola does not have any company that is willing to distribute this movie. This is a movie, by the way, that is set to come out this year. So right off the bat, that is a bit strange. Francis Ford Coppola has incredible name value alone and is obviously widely renowned for doing the Godfather movies, one of the biggest contributions to film ever, even though I've never seen any of them. But the weirdness surrounding this movie does not stop there. Francis Ford Coppola also is essentially financing the entire movie by himself. He put up $120 million of his own money to finance this film. I have heard of people chipping in a little bit of their own money when they're trying to create their passion project movie. I have never heard of anybody putting up over $100 million to make the movie that they want to make. It is both insane and also awesome, because you know right away this movie is going to be whatever he wants it to be. When you are putting up $100 million, nobody is telling you what this movie can and cannot become. It's gonna be, for better or for worse, all of the things he wants it to be. But that's another thing. When this movie was screened at Cannes, it got a bit of a polarizing reaction. In fact, if you look up the reviews for this movie right now, they are everywhere from people saying this is the worst movie I have ever seen in my life to people saying this is the best, greatest film of all time. On top of all of this, the film has no distribution. Coppola is financing a large majority of the movie, if not all of it. The owner of IMAX has promised Coppola that the film will get premium IMAX screenings. I have never heard of a film with no distributor. No company wants this movie. That's what's so weird. The film has no distributor, and the guy who owns IMAX is saying, no problem, it's gonna be in IMAX theaters, which is just potentially has insane ramifications to begin with, but this is just a fascinating story. When I heard about this movie recently, like literally a couple days ago, this entire situation is impossible not to think about a few different of the movies that were described as like crazy epics, but also insanely confusing and hard to follow and didn't end up living to their level of hype. Babylon is the most recent example that I can remember of a movie that people were like, this is a crazy epic, it's all over the place, it's doing so much, and then it came out, it didn't make any money, and got a pretty bad reception. I also remember Cloud Atlas, which I think a lot of people said would be almost impossible to adapt to the big screen. Proved to be pretty true, because a lot of the reaction of that movie was that it was the most confusing movie anyone had ever seen, which is a bold statement, because that's a pretty long list of films, but Cloud Atlas, I think, for a lot of people, tops their list of movies that they just don't understand. And so this could go either way. I think that the fact that all of this is coming out right now is great press for Megalopolis. Like, it has so much momentum now, just from the fact that, like, you're going to get the people who are now going to go see it, because it's like, it's rebellious. It's like, oh, no distributor wants the movie. Why is that? What's he trying to say? What's this movie about? You're going to get that crowd of people who go to the movie just for that. And you're just going to get the generally like interested people hearing several different stories about this movie that no one's distributing, but it's going to be an IMAX, but it's been in the works for 40 years. It's got all these incredible actors in it. The story is all over the place. I think that this is all only beneficial for Francis Ford Coppola. On the bright side, it's really cool that this guy's passion project, which he thought of, I think I read in 1973 or something, so like 50 years ago, and then like in the 80s started trying to make it, and then kind of scrapped it, and in 2019 put up his own money to start filming the movie. That's pretty cool. This has got to feel really fulfilling for him, that he wanted to make this movie for basically his entire life, and he actually made it. Let me say this. Francis Ford Coppola, unless he had only $121 million and he spent literally 99.9% of his net worth to make this movie, it seems like he's not really hurting for money. If you have $120 million to just peel off to make your passion project, like, you're doing all right. So maybe it's not going to be the end of the world if this movie comes out and completely bombs. Obviously, people have seen the movie now. People who work for well-known film distributors have seen the movie, and film festivals are usually where a lot of these movies get purchased by distributors. It happens at Sundance, happens at Cannes, Tribeca Film Festival. This is usually where a lot of these movies, they premiere and then they get picked up shortly after that, because the reception is really, really good. There's usually bidding wars. That's not happening here. The people who are in charge of making those decisions have obviously seen the movie, and people with way less on the line financially, obviously, can have whatever opinion they want of the film, but the people whose job it is to make the company money have seen this movie and decided it's not a moneymaker. I do wonder if this whole conversation, one of these companies, it's like, hey, this is probably enough media for us to make money on the movie, whether or not people like it. They're going to go see it anyway, just because word of mouth is going to be like, see the movie and form your own opinion. This is one of the more unique stories that I have seen about a movie. And it's got one of the most famous directors of all time, which I think just makes the story even weirder, because there's so many famous directors out there that have full first look deals, which just means you bring your idea to a studio and they're like, hey, we want first dibs. If we like it, we're going to make it. Don't show anybody else. Jordan Peele has a deal like that. I think Spielberg has a deal like that. Francis Ford Coppola, a name that I think a lot of us know, doesn't apparently have the cachet, the pull, to get his movie purchased for distribution just on name value alone. Especially when people have seen the movie now and clearly come to some sort of idea that this is not going to make them any money, so they don't want it. I would imagine someone's going to pick this movie up, because I've never heard of a film coming out with no distributor. Although based on the fact that Coppola had $100 million to make the movie on his own, he could probably distribute it on his own as well, which I think opens up another just interesting idea of like what happens when directors or filmmakers distribute their own movies, and do they kind of cut out the middleman? I don't know. That's a whole other video, but interesting story. If you have not seen the trailer for Megalopolis, please watch it, because I'm just genuinely curious what other people think. I'm definitely intrigued now. I mean, I like sci-fi movies anyway. It's basically a sci-fi film, and it sounds interesting, and I like Adam Driver. I like most of the cast in the movie, so I'm probably in regardless, but all this discussion around the movie definitely has me more interested. Check out the trailer and let me know what you guys think.